several other committees here. Could you tell us the order that you want them in up front? That should be part of the agenda.
All right, we'll do landscape, management committee, recycle, and security. Now, what we'd like to do is for each committee is have about a 3 or 4 minute presentation from the committee chairman, and then the board will discuss it.
And our goal was to be an advisory to the board, just to come up with ideas, suggestions, present it to you, come up with a mission statement, and follow that mission statement. Now, the mission statement, it covers the guidance regarding the landscape issues, managing our landscape contractor, the recommendation guidelines for unit owners. We would work with an annual budget with the board of directors, and we would work to organize work projects for the committee members and members of the unit to do regarding if they want to volunteer. And then what we would do is we would continually review the area, come up with suggestions and recommend them to the board. Our first objective, like I said, was to develop that mission statement, which you have in front of you. What we've done is we've met with the landscaper, we've met with Orkin, the fertilizer company, we met with the master gardener, and also we met with Martin County officials over the conditions of soil. We've had the soil and water tested, cut it really short and sweet. We found out one of the major things was that they had been dramatically cut too short. Everyone that looked at it said, my God, the roots, the St. Augustine grass is showing. And when that shows, it burns out, and as soon as that burns out, the grass is shot.
Well, let me just talk to the mission statement for a second. Yes. The committee feels it's critical that we have a mission statement that clearly outlines our objectives and it receives the blessing of the board so that we have these clear guidelines to move forward. Discuss the mission statement as a board and decide whether or not this is something we want in place so the committee can move forward.
The mission statement says manage our landscaping contractor relationships. Does that mean that you're going to hire and fire that staff or?
Monitor their performance is a key. Interact with the landscaper and say, listen, cutting it too short, we need to keep in mind that it has to be cut at this length. We're advisory. If at some point we find the performance of the landscapers or fertilization company doesn't meet certain standards, we would recommend to the board that we search for a replacement. We would not handle anything other than that advisory interaction.
You have no right to make a decision for the condo.
Yep. My understanding it would be everything would be in cooperation with the board. I don't think that the committee, any of the committees that we put together, would be making independent decisions.
I think you could probably just add that in there in conjunction with the board.
My concern, and I expressed this to Bill, that how, this is a good mission statement, but how are we going to get it out to the unit owners?
Yeah, we have to send out a note to all unit owners, not just a new one, saying we have a committee, here's your key contacts, here's what their mission statement reads, and if you have any questions, you can contact them.
And most importantly, the people on the second floor should have, your neighbors should have an input on what they're doing on the first floor. That's the way I feel as a second floor unit owner.
Then it could be repeated again in the newsletter.
And
yeah, that sounds good on the surface, but people either don't read or they don't comprehend what's written. And because every time we put stuff in newsletters or announce it and talk about it in meetings, there's always a couple people that just say, well, how come nobody ever told me about that?
How many we have on our email list?
Actually, I think about 20 units that don't have any.
I think we need to discuss, and that involves when we do have our work projects, how can we arrange that we have some limited budget for plant replacement and such so that we don't have to wait for approval.
Work within the budget, knowing that when it's gone, it's gone. You're making a decision.
Right.
Because the board is responsible for spending this stuff. As long as it fits into the budget, knowing that when it, if you spend it all in January, you got nothing left for the rest of the year. The only long caution I have is on one paragraph here, you speak of organize and initiate work projects for committee members and unit owners. We just renewed our insurance, and one of the things that we talked about when we had the insurance agent here was, what kind of coverage or what kind of problems, and basically what they're saying is there really is no coverage for volunteers. But what they recommended, volunteer groups and unit owners, no ladders, no power. I think we specifically have to say, be certain that there is no ladders or power tools. I think we need to add in there and say specifically in conjunction with the board of directors.
develop and manage a landscape contractor relationship in cooperation with the board.
Or separate sentences that there will be one liaison that would be authorized to talk to the county.
And I think we need to vote on having Bill have the authority to run the budget.
All right, next one was the management committee.
Thank you very much for hearing us, and I think this is the opportune time, because our committee has met twice, and some of the stuff that we've been doing has been evolving, and but we think that we have a pretty definitive mission statement, and also some things that we would like to address to the board and see if we can get permission to move forward on. Now, our mission statement really is, give you a little bit of context for this, is generated around the fact that we had a rude awakening in here a couple of months ago when it was brought up that we may be going to a management outfit in order to be able to run condo community. Our mission statement is enable and encourage participation and recognition of all unit owners in the operation and management of the River Club. The goal is to continue the owner management of the property. And we're going to be talking about some things how that you can obtain that. We're both stakeholders and shareholders in this property, and we need to be able to participate in order to maintain it. Now, there's three things that we looked at that we want to attain this. One is recognition that volunteering is a core value in the management and operation of the River Club. Measurement and reporting on key management and operational activity. Use of technology to facilitate wider participation in the governance and operation of the River Club. In the mission statement, it's a core value in our community that volunteering is very important. You know, we had about approximately a 10% turnover in units in here last year. They come in and they introduce themselves down here at the clubhouse. They give a little questionnaire. What would you be able to volunteer? What would you be able to contribute in to be able to do that, to help the community? And that's one thing. The other thing is recognition when people do volunteer. Now, that's very important. I don't think that a lot of people in design, in my opinion, really appreciate that. The second thing is measurement and reporting on key management and operational activities. From a standpoint of, there's a lot of things that are done around here, and we always talk in terms of budget, but we ought to be talking in terms of capturing that information. How many projects that we have, major projects that we have going on during the year? How many man hours, or person hours, excuse me, that would it take to run those projects? Who did it, all right? How many projects do we have coming down in the future? I mean, when you look around this complex, it's 40 years old. There's going to be a lot of major things that are going to have to be addressed. We should be able to be planned up front, know what those are so that we can anticipate them. Now, our committee wants to be able to address that. And you know, that's going to take time. It's not something that's going to easily be done. We're going to have to work with people to be able to do that. And then what we would do is suggest that the final thing, the final outcome of this would be a report that would be given every quarter saying, I have these many projects. This is how many man hours were spent with it. Give the community a flavor. So when it comes to saying that I want to go, that we may need to go to a management company, that we have the numbers so that we can explain these are the reasons why you want to do it. And I've already developed a sheet already with a number of things that want to be done. You know, we're not here to question what you're doing. What we're trying to do is we're trying to help and be able to communicate that to the community. The last thing is to address participation in particular. And Steve Ward has already done some things. In fact, we may be being recorded right now. He's come up with a product, how you can be able to remotely call into a meeting. What does that do? Well, if I'm back in Connecticut, I can be able to come in here and listen to the meeting. When you have real-time online communications where that we can be able to participate remotely from the board. And some of us, for whatever the reasons, we can't be down here all year round, but it would be, I think it would help in the communications to do it, and there are products out there that are reasonably priced to be able to do that.
This is geared primarily for the snowbirds. What this does is it needs to be administered from inside the room. And what it does is it gives anybody who's a snowbird who's interested in attending the meeting and has time, chat window, so that the person sitting in this room can pass your questions on to the board. They could, if they wanted to, turn the volume on and let you ask yourself. My technology is kind of crude. It might require a little bit of an investment. I think Joe's camera would work, but I'm not sure. But what this does do is it gives everybody at home, outside the room, a chance to listen and view the meeting. We're hoping that the board will share its knowledge base with us and the people that are willing to become involved. Everybody's got different talents, but everybody can chip in and do what Chip said, was, be a volunteer community. And hopefully, if this sparks interest, we'll continue to pursue it. If the board is receptive to having people become more involved.
Add to what Steve said, it's not about the technology. The way it was approached was just a broad survey of going out there to see what's available. What we really need to do is we need to put down what's the criteria of things that we want to have in that product. That's part of it. As you can see that Steve said, there's pluses and minuses to that. But what has to be done is put down what we want, what we can get, what the cost is, and then present it to you, and then we can give you you can look at the pros and cons for it and say, yeah, maybe this is the way we want to go and do it, or we don't want to do it, whatever the case.
I have a question.
The entire purpose is to try and give everybody a chance to be involved when they're not here.
I don't see anything wrong with the mission statement.
It's like the goal is to continue owner management of the property, which I think, is a good goal, but I think also in conjunction with this, I think the committee should be looking into the possibility of going to a management company. And the reason I say that, because up until now, the only volunteers that we've ever had is the board of directors. And even a lot of them had to be coerced into staying on the board. So the total pool of volunteers has been limited to 5 people, with the exception that we have had a lot of different committees in the past that start out as big committees, and then after a few months they don't exist. That I propose that we mail out to all unit owners at this point. And it just questions pretty simple, like, do you use the internet on a daily basis? Do you check your emails once a day? Have you signed into the River Club website? Just different questions like that to kind of get a feel for how many people would actually pay attention to this technology. Now, having said that, I realize, like you said, that there were 16 units that changed hands. Now, they may be 16 new or 32 new unit owners that are internet savvy. And
as a committee, we discussed that, and that's the kind of statistics or information that we should be capturing on a numerical basis.
Like some of the questions, read the notices posted on the entrance sign. Do you read the notices posted on bulletin board? Do you always read River Club newsletter? Do you feel as though you are well informed about the business of River Club? Do you regularly attend River Club meetings? Do you attend some or all of the social functions? Volunteer to help with the social functions? Have you volunteered for one of the newly created committees? Would you volunteer for it? Have you used the present River Club work order system? Use a new work order system by entering the information online in your computer.
Follow up from that, if you don't get an answer, would you be opposed to having somebody call them and having a phone survey?
No. To this point, everybody recognized that the board was doing a wonderful job at River Club, and they were happy about everything, and nobody cared that somebody spent 600 hours working on a project. Nobody really cared. All they cared is that everything was wonderful here, and that was it. And obviously, it could be changed.
Let me make a couple statements on this. First of all, I think as a board, we have to be clear on what we define as a committee and what role we want to give those committees. We don't want to relinquish any of our authority as a board. I won't approve it unless there's some key phrases added to that the mission is to recommend and advise the board.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think you're moving in the right direction, moving into technology step by step. But the first step is let's get some feedback, if we can, from the unit owners.